are building Jamaica.
The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:30 p.m. and it's family time.
Good evening and welcome to Family Time. This is Love 101. Thank you for joining us via Facebook as well as YouTube Live. I'm your host, Sir Twain. Family Time is about your issues and your relationships. It's about your at-home family, your community family, and indeed your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. Friend us on Facebook at FLM-Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries-FLMJA. And on Instagram, keep up with what's happening at FLMJA. So, while Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution that it may, on the odd occasion, touch on what some may consider mature matters. So, your discretion is advised. As the child of a parent with some level of dementia, the going can get rough as both try to navigate the new reality. Today, we want to look at some specific scenarios and determine how best both parent and adult child, who is the caregiver, can be helped through it. Join us as we look at the topic, coping with the parent with dementia. We also want to make sure we're helping you personally. So, tell us about an experience with your parent who has dementia. Send your stories via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. For those who are watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can go ahead and leave your comment or post and we will read what you share. Just a reminder for those who are sending in voice notes, please keep them no longer than 30 seconds. And of course, if you want to give us a call, the studio lines are 876-968-8327 or 968-8328. Our guest today will be Sonia Winter. So, as we go to a break, remember, tell somebody about the show and then hop on over and make sure that you're here when we come back from this break.
The Jamaica Debates Commission presents the General Elections Debates in association with Scotiabank for Every Future, Kendall, The Taste of Quality, Flow, NCB, ARC Manufacturing, Water, Lasca Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Here, the two major political parties debate national issues live August 26 and 28 at 9 p.m. It's a political must-listen event. Don't miss the General Elections Debates presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
That's the Jamaica Debates Commission's General Elections Debates. Listen live on Love 101 FM, the family station.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101 and welcome to our very special guest, Sonia Winter. Of course, Sonia is no stranger to Family Time. Sonia, how is everything? You're well?
Oh, can you hear? Oh, I think you're just hearing me. Greetings. Hi, Sir Twain. Thank you very much for having me today. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to be in good company and familiar company at that.
Indeed, indeed.
So, everybody watching and listening, remember, tell us about your experience that you've had with your parent who is suffering with dementia. Our text line, WhatsApp text and voice notes again, 876-997-3125. And you can call us at 876-968-8327 or 8328. The topic is coping with the parent with dementia. All right. And of course, We recall that Sonia Winter is a clinical psychologist and the founder of Tea House Therapy. So let's get into our first story, and we'll have you weigh in, Sonia, as we go. Story. So here we are. This one comes from Karen. My father's dementia is not fully blown, but he has lost some of his independence because of it. He is no longer allowed to drive because he would get lost and disoriented, especially at night. He even had a couple minor accidents, which never happened before. My siblings and I were fearful of him driving. The story my father tells everyone, though, is that he was tired of being abused by other drivers on the road. Stuff like, old man, go sit down. Old foot, you can't drive. His car was eventually sold. He now needs to depend on his children and others to take him around, which makes him feel like a burden and unimportant, but he really isn't. How do I make sure he has some sense of independence while allaying his feelings of insignificance? And secondly, am I sensing some amount of denial in his story? What do you make of this one, Sonia?
Wow, Sir Twain, you don't know. The whole matter of a parent with dementia hits very close to home for me because when I first got married, I hope it's okay to share. When I first got married, my husband's mom was diagnosed with dementia maybe about 3 months before we got married. And so I recognized at that time that I was moving into a marriage where I was going to immediately be a caregiver. Um, which I didn't sign up for. I'll tell you this, and I was in a bit of a whirlwind romance. So I was getting married to somebody that I didn't know as well as I would like. And so I felt like I was getting to know two people almost at the same time, and so that was very overwhelming for me, to tell you the truth. I was really scared about it, how am I going to live in this new environment and try to get used to being a caregiver to a stranger and getting used to, so some of these questions were very important for me too, and observing her symptoms, and knowing how to respond was very challenging. So I want to just, and it was a learning experience for me.
Sonia,
So
I realize I may have skipped a beat somewhere. So before you get even into the story, for those who are not too sure what we're talking about, what is dementia?
Good point. Okay, so dementia is a diagnosis, right? It often happens in as people age, right? And it's where they lose what we call cognitive functioning. Okay, um, it isn't one single disease per se, but it's actually an umbrella term that describes a number of set of symptoms caused by changes in the brain of the person. The most common of these, I would say, is Alzheimer's. The most common form of dementia is Alzheimer's disease, but there are other types as well. And what dementia looks like is almost like a gradual decline, first of all, in the memory that the person has, but then eventually it becomes a decline in their ability to reason well and to problem solve. It can affect their mood and their personality, and eventually affects their personality in a very dramatic way, so it's a decline in the functioning of the brain per se and all the things that it does. What's being certain, I guess what's important to note about dementia, that it's more than just normal aging, many older adults, um, myself included, forget everyday things, forget where you put your key, forget that you have on your glasses, forget where misplaced things, but dementia goes much further than that, where you can forget familiar piece, very like people's names, people's faces, get lost, lose their way. That's when it has gone over into dementia and you know that you probably have you need to get help, and then eventually you can just struggle to even do day-to-day activities, and dementia actually develops, or Twain, because brain cells are actually damaged, right? And so it affects how information passes from one brain cell to the other. And it can happen as a result of the aging process, but also because of other ways, other parts in which you're not functioning. Like there is vascular dementia as well, which can be caused by minor strokes that the person goes through, for example, and that damages brain cells and cause continuous decline in them. There's currently no cure for dementia, but there are treatments, that can delay the decline. And then also there are ways that you can change your lifestyle to support the person's independence and their sense of dignity for a long period. And adjustments too that you can do to their lives that can also slow the progression of dementia and improve the quality of their life, you know what I mean? So, and also the quality of their caregiver too, because it can really take a toll on people who are looking after them. Okay. So that's a quick, maybe not so quick overview of dementia per se.
But a well needed one. Do you remember the story I was giving you about Karen now? Or
yes. Okay. Yeah, so Karen is trying to deal with her dad. Her dad he's showing some decline in his functioning, and she's worried that it could be dementia. But of course, she's getting pushback from her dad, right? And what feels like her to be the excuses and denial for what he's really going through, and I think many families can relate to that. By the time our elders get to a certain age, they've been independent for so long that this kind of, they feel like many of their skills are robbed from them, and that can be very hard to deal with. Something that I did so easily for so many years, and now it's difficult for me, can really affect your mental health, your sense of self, your sense of hope, your sense of optimism. And driving is one of those. I mean, if anything ever represented independence, Lord knows it's driving, right? And so, for many adults, if you think about yourself, right, driving is more than just getting from point A to point B. It's about freedom, personal freedom, dignity, a sense of agency. I can do so many things and being capable because I can drive. You know what I mean? Right. So you can imagine that being taken away from you. It's a big blow to your identity almost, to who I am, I have to be driven now. Oh my goodness. Right. That's not easy. So, how do you make somebody who is showing this decline feel some sense of independence nonetheless? You're kind of trying yourself to preserve their dignity, but you have to consider their safety and the safety of others as well. At the same time, you're kind of juggling those two things, as it were, and sometimes, from what I have learned, in the field, what can often help sometimes is shifting focus from what the individual can't do to what he still can do. Okay, so for example, he could still be the one to choose where the family goes for an outing or something like that. He's the one who could manage certain, errands around the house where he says, okay, X, Y, and Z might have to be done today. If he goes, he might be the one who pays the bills, or he wants to go to grocery, even though he has to be driven there, he still gets to choose what he wants and he pays. So he has some sense of being in charge there, for example,
Okay. But we're right up on a break.
Okay.
So I know you were in full rhythm, so I hope we can mark time until we get back, and we can jump right back to that one and join with some other stories. For those who are just joining, remember this is Family Time, and we're talking about coping with a family member, specifically a parent with dementia, and our special guest is Sonia Winter, Tell somebody about the show and come back with us after this short break.
The time by Grace Good Move is
5:45.
The following is paid for by the People's National Party.
In every constituency, on every issue, the People's National Party has assembled the strongest, most diverse slate of candidates in a generation. From doctors ready to heal our broken health system, to educators building a smarter Jamaica, business people growing the economy, legal minds defending justice, and community advocates speaking truth to power. This is a team chosen for competence, compassion, and commitment. Led by Mark Golding, a good man with a good plan. This is not politics as usual. This is the team to rescue Jamaica, rebuild our future, and restore pride in leadership. Jamaica, time come.
The proceeding was paid for by the People's National Party.
Brunswick, tuna the only option. Give me the one thing, no, me no want a fraction. Brunswick tuna, morning, night, or noon. Me say me ready for the action. Brunswick tuna, they want me plate. Now they eat it for dinner, now they morning for me breakfast. You can have it anytime, anyway, with couple slices of bread or crackers. What's convenient, taste good and affordable. Brunswick tuna, love tuna. Me under the pitney in a school. Chunky Nile, spicy Thai chili, chunky water. Brunswick tuna, snacking made easy, snacking made tasty, snacking made healthy.
Disasters are a reality. Prepare for any eventuality is what this season asks of we. Check your safety carefully before launching out to sea. We can't stop stand, but prepping is the key. We all have a responsibility to protect our lives and families, our homes and our communities. So turn your no into yes. Prepare our land to stand the test. Let's do this for Jamaica's best.
Stay cool this summer with Frigidaire and Panasonic in the Singer Summer Sale event. Frigidaire fridges and freezers are now at super low prices, so you can be cool and comfortable all summer long. And with up to 40% off bedroom sets and sectionals, you save big on furniture. Only Singer has 4 months for cash and 9 months no interest. Shop today. Offers end soon.
JC Grants Logistics and Travel. We make shipping easy. 5 days a week. Fast and efficient service with low rates. Book your dream hotel stay or cruise with us. Plan a stress-free school excursion or family vacation. Get expert guidance on visa applications and travel documentation. Visit JC Grants Logistics and Travel. Shop number 7, Miramar Plaza, Chandler's Estates, Maypen, and Monza, Greater Portmore. 876-599-0629. JC Grants Logistics and Travel.
Welcome back to Family Time here on Love 101. Shout out to all those watching via Facebook or YouTube. Send in your comments, send in your thoughts, and of course your responses to the question, or just comments on the matter of an experience you had with a parent who has dementia. I'm sure that our special guest Sonia Winter will be able to respond to them. And of course, remember the topic is coping with the parent with dementia. Send me your comments and post, and we will respond to those. For the lines for the studio, if you want to call, 876-968-8327 or 8328. And if you're on WhatsApp and you want to drop us a voice note or a text, go ahead, use the number 876-997-3125. While I'm at numbers, let me just give you the numbers for the FLM head office in Kingston. That's 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. So far, Sonia has helped us to understand what dementia is. And regrettably, we've learned as well that there really is no cure. So we have to manage it and manage with our parent and work out as caregivers. And she shared her personal experience of becoming a caregiver as she entered marriage, right? So Sonia, that's what you right. Yeah. So that was one of those stories that so she's been where you are and she can assist. I know it's something that you emphasize we should help persons by highlighting what they can do versus what they can't do. And you mentioned driving because driving is a skill. And you want to know that, you're talking about, yeah, man, we can drive, man, we go around him, man, and could I in an accident, but when you don't have that anymore, it's kind of like, I've lost a great skill which I used to have. How do we, because it seems a difficult conversation to have when the parent has dementia, so all their faculties aren't there. So is there an easy way to help? Because it seems like we should probably be having this conversation before we start seeing signs, just in case. Would that help, or would it not matter because dementia would just wipe that
Well,
away?
you know what, Sir Twain, you know what I have found is only after something happens that you kind of take stock almost. You know what I mean? It's almost like you have to see a red flag before you recognize it. Something out of the ordinary has to happen before you realize you get a signal that something isn't right. You know what I mean? So if the decline is happening, but there are no signs of it, it's hard for you to address it. You know what I mean? You can only respond to what you see. And when you start to see these signs, I think the thin line that you're walking is between, as I said, preserving the person's dignity and sense of self versus their safety. You know what I mean? That's what you're juggling, you know?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
go ahead.
And I think in this case, it's finding ways to communicate to them you still matter and you can still contribute. That's you're important. You can still contribute. Focusing on that as much as possible to help you in that process, you know.
All right. So let's get to the second story. This one is from Natalie. My mom and I have frequent arguments about how things happened. Her dementia is not really evident to most people because it doesn't affect everyday conversation. But when she's telling me what happened over a period of time, she will conflate several stories and confuse timelines and swear that's how it went. And no matter how much proof or correction, nothing will convince her. And she will repeat it several days later. I find this dangerous because it may be important detail that maybe a doctor has to know, and I may not be there to set it all straight. What do I do? Because she's the killer dead. That's her story, and she's sticking to it.
Wow, it's difficult. You can imagine the emotions that everybody's going through here. And as again, that's a typical struggle that many caregivers go through. One of the most painful things about dementia is when the reality gets mixed up, and different aspects of what's happening is completely tangled up in the mind of the person. Your stories, timelines, events, and so on can get really mixed up, and sometimes, it's not about for the person with dementia, it's not for them about misrepresenting the facts. It's just that how they now have the information organized in their mind is what they're telling you is complete reality to them. Sometimes it's not about dissembling the facts or lying per se. It's about what they're saying. Many times what they're saying feels completely real to them, right? And that's why arguing hardly ever works, and leaves both people completely frustrated.
So arguing doesn't work, but how does one avoid arguing without feeling that, well, okay, then I'm just going to agree with you because I can't agree with what you just said? So how does one navigate that?
You know what? If you can step into their shoes, then you kind of know how they're feeling, right? And are they feeling frustrated? Are they feeling disrespected? How is the situation making them feel? And so it's often helpful to validate the emotion behind what they're saying, right? So imagine if your mom is upset while she's telling her version of the events, right? Maybe you can respond to the feeling rather than the facts of what she's saying. You know what I mean? So you can say, I don't know, something like, I can see that this is really important to you. And you must have felt so frustrated when the teller turned on you that way, so you're labeling the feelings that must be real, that you can't debate, that she felt frustrated or she felt disrespected or she felt put out, is probably quite real. There's nothing to debate about that. Or she felt sad, So sometimes just stay with that. Validate, boy. That situation sounds so hurtful. It must have hurt you, to right down to your belly button. I can't imagine how you must have felt in that situation. And in that way, you don't get into the details. You're not splitting hairs or arguing facts. You're more validating how they feel.
And that it sounds like that helps you to be or to come off like you're on their side.
Empathetic.
Versus,
exactly.
We're trying to debate who's right and wrong. I'm really just empathizing, as you said, and being there with you in the moment.
For sure.
Is that important?
Exactly, for sure. That's the, and you don't want to lose their trust. You know what I mean, as well. And so empathizing is showing that you understand how they feel and how they feel is valid. That's empathy, and that does win you over. Because trust can play a big role, not only in preserving the person's dignity, but in preserving the relationship so that you still can help them.
All right. Interesting stuff. So we're about to go to a break, but I want to tell you about a few things, some books that FLM has prepared for us. But before I get to that, just remember, we are talking about coping with the parent with dementia. And our special guest is Sonia Winter. So if you haven't called anybody and told them to join yet, please do so. So before we go to the break, as I said, there are a couple books which I want to introduce to you. FLM has these books and they're on the shelves and you can have them at your fingertips. The first is Answers to Questions Parents Ask. Parents, you can take this one up. The second is Questions on Love, Sex, and Marriage. Another one which I hope will be popular and will get you ringing off the lines and hoping to have this one. You can purchase them from Brian's Bookstore, the Jamaica Baptist Union Bookstore, and Source of Light Bookstore. But here's a third one, something like a bonus. Before They Say I Do, the Questionnaire and Manual. The third book, Before They Say I Do, the Question and Manual. This one is specifically for counselors, psychologists, pastors, and marriage officers. All three books are available through Family Life Ministries. You can call them at 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. Remember, when you call Family Time, you can also set appointments. We will give you more information towards the end of the show. But remember, our Family Time, our Family Life Ministries office is located in Kingston. The numbers for those are 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. Join us as we return from the break, and I'm still waiting for your comments as well as your responses to the question. This is Family Time. Don't go anywhere.
You can see the face, but not the heart. Those who want to do you wrong. So many times.
Bless up. This is Christopher Martin. Human trafficking is a crime. Let's unite to end human trafficking. Be wise, open your eyes, spot them, stop them, and report them.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
No shadow after dark. No shadow after dark.
Celebrate the end of year in style at the Montego Bay Convention Center, where elegance meets excitement in the heart of paradise. Planning a corporate gala, holiday, or New Year's Eve party? This world-class venue is the perfect place to end the year. Book now and get 10% off all rooms for end-of-year events. But hurry, dates are going fast. Montego Bay Convention Center, where it all happens.
I'm Itana, and human trafficking is everybody's business. Call 1-888-PROTECT to report suspected cases of child trafficking.
The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6 o'clock.
Remix the summer with Digicel. 100 lucky winners win $100,000 each, plus surprises all summer. To enter, buy a SIM, 7-day plan or higher. Switch to Digicel. Be an active postpaid or Digicel Plus customer, or receive US $15 or more from abroad. Gift a friend a plan. They could win $25,000. Remix the summer with Digicel. Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Promo ends September 15, 2025. Conditions apply. Visit DigicelJamaica.com for more info. Digicel, better connected this summer.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101. We're discussing coping with the parent with dementia, and our special guest is Sonia Winter. I'm trying to remember the title. I think it's clinical psychologist and founder of Tea House Therapy. Sonia Winter. So before, we were looking at a couple stories and how we can use those as examples to help us go along. I want to go ahead and bring another story, this one from Lisa, and see where that one leaves the discussion.
Sir Twin,
yes.
Could I ask? There was an important question that is it Natalie, the last person Natalie asked, which I think might be useful. The one about medical details, right?
Yes.
I think that's an important one. We don't want to forget. You know, she said, you know, what if medical details get lost sometimes, right? And I think this is an important one for caregivers, right? Because caregivers in these situations, almost in all settings of dementia, the caregiver almost becomes the memory backup system when it comes to medical details. So it's very important that the caregiver find a way to keep a written record of their medical history, right? Either on a paper or on your phone or something. Medications, key events, that's very important, because especially for when the individual with dementia is visiting the doctor, you know, you need to have as accurate an account of the details available as possible. Also, it's sometimes too, what might be important is if you could even get a little note or something, an email to the doctor ahead of time to let them know what any highlights that have happened, you know, in the interim, so you don't have to give the information in front of the person as well, you know. Or if you could, you know, you could have a little clandestine meeting before or something like that, so the doctor can know what's happening, you know. And then yes, go ahead, sir Twin.
No, I'm just nodding. I'm saying yes. It really adds up. It really makes sense.
And then also, you know, when this can put up the most strain on families, when it's one of the children of the person with dementia that feels like they're carrying the whole load of everything, you know, that often happens. And to the extent that you can share that responsibility, you know, when you're also sharing the record keeping, as it were, you know. With my mother-in-law, we had a big book that we would that, you know, her caregivers would always write in by the date. Eventually, as she declined, it would be by the date, you know. This is how much food she took in, this is how many times she went to the bathroom. That's really in its extreme, because that's also patterns you need to watch to see when their bodily functions are declining, because they can't tell you anymore, you know what I mean? So that becomes important. And the matter of just repeating stories over and over again, I think Natalie raised that again, you know, that is the reality of dementia, right? The person is going to sound like they're on a stock record. And so sometimes here is a very important question to ask, you know, when the person is repeating something, when they're relaying details that don't seem quite accurate, right? an important litmus test to ask yourself is it harmful? Is this situation, their account of the facts, harmful to them, right? Or is it just a different version of reality? And if that's all, if it's just different, then you may want to just let it go. But if it's about something harmful like medical details, then you want to be a quiet fact keeper and share those facts without the person feeling small or wrong. But if it's not about that, then you don't need to correct every single thing. It's not harming anybody, as it's a new reality to get used to. So those are two things I just wanted to mention as it relates to Natalie's point about the reality that people can sometimes get bent up about.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we're looking at the third story from Lisa. I'm very happy because you gave us some tips right there as well. How to keep the medical records, as well as how to navigate the whole matter of what do I really double down on, or what do I just leave alone? Because I think those are something that we probably struggle with, even with regular people. So you can't help. So story
you want to pick your battles.
Pick your battles as you go.
With those, but for those with dementia and those without.
Yes. So story 3 from Lisa. My mom has always been a germaphobe, but now at 78, it's a fight to get her to take a shower, brush her teeth, even wash her hands, and don't mention washing her hair. This is the woman who wouldn't miss her weekly hair appointment. She barely allows you to brush it neatly. So every day there is a fight over one thing or the other. Why this turnaround and aversion to anything with cleansing? And how do we get her to calmly do these things daily? My father, who also lives with us, is threatening to hose her down. She hasn't had a bath in 3 days. So, as I read this story, Sonny, I recognize that it feels as though I'm hearing about a little girl. They don't want their hair to be combed, washing hands, taking showers, all these things probably aren't that important to them. And you just mentioned, how do we pick our battles? For this one, is it at choosing how to fight the battle? Do we say, okay, then you can shower every 2 days? Or do we have to bathe them every day?
Well, you know what? Sometimes just understanding what's happening can help you feel more compassion, can change your attitude towards it. And sometimes that attitude shift is a big thing, So understanding what the person is going through. So on the matter of grooming, again, another thing that happens typically, right? And there are a number of things with dementia specifically that can make people resistant to grooming and bathing, right? The first one is the fact that their perception of things changes, right? So what might have been like a simple shower before can now feel very overwhelming to them, even frightening, things like water hitting their skin, right? The noise of running water, or feeling cold or exposed, right? Those things, your perception of those things can change dramatically. So now it's something that's frightening or threatening in some way, So that's one thing about dementia. Number 2, remember it affects your memory for routine. So sometimes you can't remember that you had a bath or not, but more importantly, sometimes you can't even remember why bathing matters, right? Or even, why is this even important? You can't even process to remember that. Okay, so why are they forcing me to do this thing? This just doesn't make any sense to me. Is as hard as that is to understand. But that's exactly what's happening, Sir Twin. And then again, imagine somebody who has lost control over so many things, right? Sometimes refusing to do something is the only way they can feel any kind of independence or any kind of dignity. Like, I am deciding for myself what I do when I do it. You know what I mean? I'm not a child who's going to be told what to do. I decide my own destiny. So sometimes it's only the last bastion of preserving their dignity and sense of independence. So it's not always just about being stubborn. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's confusion, and sometimes, as I said, your response to the sensory experience is just very overwhelming. So you can see that's a difficult experience for the individual. You're like in a world where you're lost, and you know what I mean, you don't know which way is up, really. So if you can take that attitude versus this person is just stubborn or belligerent, that will help you. And then sometimes maybe you have to deal with, and in terms of dealing with it now, that's how you try to understand the situation. In terms of dealing with it now, sometimes you just have to be flexible. I know that for many families, what they end up doing is, they don't even bother with the full bath. Maybe they do a sponge bath or something, or they try as best as possible to make sure it's a warm cloth they're wiping them down with, or do a dry shampoo or something. You change. It don't have to be the whole thing all over again, but you see if you can come up with any kind of compromised position, as it were. Again, the sensory overload is a big thing. So as much as possible, make sure that the environment is warm, because they can be very hypersensitive to changes in temperature. Trying your best to now make it an enjoyable experience. So you're adding things to the experience. I don't know, things that maybe make it smell good, different. Talk about the bath wash, or play lovely music or something. That can be soothing or something. And that's what you're focusing on. I'm dying for you. Come, let's go and listen to this nice music while you bathe, and you're focusing on that. Maybe also trying to, here's a thing that works with children as well as with individuals with dementia. Instead of giving them one option and just saying, boom, it's time for your shower now, mother, right? You might say, here's a wonderful way to do it. Would you like to freshen up before you have tea or after you have tea? Okay, so the sense of choice is back almost. The bath is not optional, but you're giving them some sense of choice. You want to have a little warm bath before you have your tea, or you want to have it after. And sometimes that is not only distracts them, but it's emphasizing that they still have choice in some things. You know what I mean? And then also, celebrating after they actually do it. Wow, you smell so lovely. I love it when you shower. You give encouragement and praise after you actually get the tough job done.
Sounds rather interesting, and I see where we have to be giving grace, because I find that when we're interacting with children, we don't necessarily highlight some of this stuff, because we're like, okay, cool, we understand your situation, but then we have to retrain our minds, recognize that although we're dealing with an adulting body, we really are dealing with some of the faculties and some of the situations which kind of more resemble children, and we have to be more grateful and help them along in that way.
Indeed.
So we're almost at a break, so I'm not going to ask you to speed talk for this next scenario. I'll just throw it to the break, and we'll come back and start from there.
Did you know that you can vote without the new voter ID card? Once you're registered to vote, that is, your name is on the voters list, you can vote in the upcoming election. If you don't have your voter ID card, visit your polling station on election day, and our trained election day workers will assist you. That was a message from the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
The Jamaica Debates Commission presents the General Elections Debates in association with Scotiabank for every future. Kendall, the taste of quality. Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, Lasco Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Here, the two major political parties debate national issues live August 26th and 28th at 9 p.m. It's a political must-listen event. Don't miss the general elections debates presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
That's the Jamaica Debates Commission's General Elections Debates. Listen live on Love 101 FM, the family station.
Remix this summer with Digicel. 100 lucky winners win $100,000 each, plus surprises all summer. Gift a friend a plan. They could win $25,000. At the time by Digicel is now 6:15.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Turn the flame up and take it to 100. This summer we're turning up the love across Jamaica. It's the Double the Love Summer Tour with Love 101.
Everything a double.
Join us in 5 parishes for live broadcast of the Gospel Train and Youth Connection, plus community cook-offs, family sports, games, and good vibes from Portmore to St. Thomas, Manchester, Mobile, and Kingston.